Hi, my name is Beth Azor, and I own shopping centers in South Florida. And this is my podcast, I Own a Shopping Center, Now What? So you all know how important I think it is to somehow, if you cannot reside in the city that you own your properties, which I know that is not realistic for many of you, you definitely need to be engaged and involved in the city that you own the property. So if you cannot personally do it, which I highly recommend if you're just starting, if you're listening to this podcast, I Own a Shopping Center, Now What? I presume that you're just starting and you may just have one center, two centers, three centers, a few centers. You don't have 100 shopping centers listening to this podcast. So let's say that you have three centers and let's say they're all over Kingdom Come. Let's say you've got one in Fort Worth, one in Orlando, and one in Milwaukee. I highly recommend that you visit them often, like monthly. And I think it's super important for you to be engaged and a member of the Chamber of Commerce, and that you know who the economic development person is in each town that you own properties in, and you meet with them at least once a year, if not twice a year. If it's impossible for you to do these things, is there someone that you can hire to travel to these properties and do these things, or have one person in each market? Maybe it's your third-party leasing person and you pay them a little extra, not that you should, but to make sure that they're attending these chamber meetings and meeting and knowing and having a relationship with the economic development directors. I can't tell you how many deals I've gotten being involved with the chamber. Every chance I get, if I'm at a chamber meeting and I get to stand up and introduce myself, I mention that I have a couple of vacancies in my property and these are the uses I'm looking for. Because if you stand up at a chamber meeting and say, I have a shopping center and I've got some vacancies, come lease space, they're just not paying attention to me. But if I get up and say, I have a former hair salon space that I would love to have a barber shop, if you guys in the room, go to barbers, talk to your barbers about coming and being in my shopping center, that gives them more specifics to think about, and then maybe, give them an idea. Or I have a real estate office that moved out, so I would like any kind of insurance office or anybody that has a small office. And when you get up and you speak about that in specific terms at the chamber meetings, where in the city that your property is located in, and you do it more than once, you're a consistent presence at the chamber meetings, it will really deliver for you tenfold on leasing. It will also help if you're engaged or have a relationship with the economic development person. It has helped me with permitting. It just helped me get an occupancy permit for a tenant who was relocating and not even doing any work, but they had to transfer their business license and it was taking over a month. And once they let me know what was going on, I reached out to the head of the planning department. I reached out to my friend, the economic development director, and within 48 hours, they had their license. So having these relationships, again, if you own 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shopping centers, this is not asking too much. Yes, it is if you own 100 shopping centers, of course, but that means that you've got a staff and a team that can take on these responsibilities. So get involved, sponsor maybe the local church's carnival or sponsor the golf tournament for the chamber. So do things. I was working on a project in Cleveland in an office building, and we sponsored a golf tournament, and I was able to be on a tee with a table and was able to show renderings to 200 golfers. Most of them had office spaces. So getting involved in your local community really will deliver tenfold, and I highly recommend it. I hope you're enjoying these podcasts. Please share, reach out, subscribe, all that stuff, and I'll talk to you next week.